Welcome to the deep dive. When we talk about big industrial operations, all the focus often goes to the huge machines, right? The assembly lines, the giant
Yeah,
reactors.
the obvious stuff.
Exactly. But sometimes the real foundation, the thing keeping it all running smoothly, it's a part you barely notice until it breaks down, of course.
hmm Like industrial pumps.
Precisely. Industrial pumps.
Mm.
And look, anyone who's worked in operations knows there's really no such thing as almost uptime.
Almost is just down.
Right. When a critical pump fails, it's not just a little hiccup. It can completely torch your monthly quotas.
Oh, yeah.
It can damage your reputation. And those margins, those already razor-thin margins, they can just vanish.
Gone.
And so often, it all traces back to what seems like the weakest link. Maybe a pump that wasn't quite up to the job, a subpar pump.
And what's really fascinating there, I think, is exactly that point you made. How something seemingly, well, small, can have these huge knock-on effects throughout the entire operation. So today, we're not just, looking at a product catalog. We're digging into why these choices are so critical. The bigger picture of operational integrity, I guess. How every single piece matters.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this then. Today we are taking a deep dive into AR North America pumps and, just as importantly, their key supply partner, pe-energy.com. So if you're out there managing procurement or you're an operations ace, think of this as a shortcut, a way to understand the kind of strategic edge these two companies can give you.
Right. Moving beyond just like buying a part.
Yes, towards investing in actual, consistent, reliable uptime.
And we're going to get into, AR North America's history, nearly 60 years of it. That's a lot of experience.
6 decades.
6 decades of lessons learned from failures, definitely, but also innovations and building that reputation. And we'll look at how their pumps are built for what our sources call proven ruthless durability.
Ruthless durability. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, these things are often designed for 5, 10, maybe even 20-year service lives, assuming, proper maintenance.
Wow.
And we'll also explore their innovation by application idea. They're really not about one size fits all.
Okay.
It's about tailoring the pump, the flow, the pressure, the efficiency precisely for the task at hand, which also feeds into their reputation for low maintenance and high ROI, easy rebuild kits, fast part swaps, that kind of thing.
And then there's the other side of the coin, the supply partner, pe-energy.com. We need to look at how they become this almost like a secret weapon.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Helping you dodge those typical procurement nightmares, the late shipments, the parts that just don't show up.
Or the sales rep you can never get hold of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll examine their inventory depth, their dedicated B2B service focus, and the kind of wholesale advantages they offer that really speed things up. It's about switching from, let's say, commodity pump chaos to genuine industrial supply certainty.
Right.
So, okay, we've set the stage. Durability, precision from AR North America. You mentioned that phrase, ruthless durability. It sounds intense. What does that actually translate to, on the factory floor or out in the field? How do they back that up?
That's a really good question, because it's not just like a catchy slogan, right? Ruthless durability. It points to very specific engineering choices.
Okay.
Choices made to ensure these pumps keep performing under really tough conditions for a very long time. So, for instance, it might mean using advanced alloys, sometimes even proprietary ones, that can stand up to really corrosive stuff. Abrasive fluids you'd find in mining, maybe, or chemical processing.
Right, harsh environments.
Exactly.
Good.
Or designing bearing systems that can handle wild temperature swings, think desert heat versus Arctic cold. It's engineered to cope. So it's not just about surviving. It's about maintaining peak performance year after year, minimizing problems like cavitation damage, making sure seals hold up under constant pressure cycles. That's the how behind those 5, 10, 20-year service life figures, when they're maintained properly.
That really underscores the long-term thinking, doesn't it? The materials, the design details. Okay, so they survive, but you also mentioned innovation by application. How do they actually avoid that one-size-fits-all problem in practice? Can you give an example of what that tailoring looks like?
Sure, yeah. Innovation by application basically means they don't just pull a standard pump off the shelf for you.
Okay.
They'll look at the specific fluid you need to move, the flow rates you need, the pressure, the working environment, all of it.
Right.
So let's say you're dealing with something really thick, like viscous fluids. They might optimize the impeller design, maybe the shape of the pump housing itself, to cut down on energy loss and stop it from clogging up.
Ah, okay, efficiency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which means lower power consumption for the same output. And that adds up, significantly over the pump's life in terms of running costs.
Sure.
Or maybe it's for a sterile environment, like food processing or pharma. They'd engineer the pump with specific materials, specific finishes, designs that make it really easy to clean thoroughly. So it's not just minor adjustments, it's optimizing for performance and longevity in your specific situation.
That makes a lot of sense. Tailoring it instead of forcing a generic fit.
Yeah.
And connecting that back to maintenance, how does that design approach help with the low maintenance, high ROI claim? You mentioned easy rebuild kits and part swaps.
Yeah, the modularity of the design is really crucial there.
Modularity.
Meaning the pumps are built so that the parts that tend to wear out, seals, valves, maybe plungers, they can be swapped out really quickly and easily.
Hey.
The rebuild kits they provide have everything you need, but they're designed to be straightforward. Often, a maintenance tech can do a component swap or even a full rebuild right there on site.
Not sending it back.
Often, yeah. Using just standard tools, often in a few hours. Think about what that saves in terms of specialized labor costs.
Right.
And more importantly, it slashes downtime. When a critical pump is offline, every single hour costs money.
Big money, usually.
Absolutely. So the ability to get it back up and running fast without needing, specialist external help or shipping the whole unit away, that's where you really see that high return on investment. It's about keeping things running and keeping those unexpected costs down.
Okay, so we've got these pumps, super tough, precisely engineered, easy to maintain from AR North America.
Yeah.
But like you said, even the world's best pump is no good if you can't actually get it when and where you need it.
Exactly. Logistics matter.
Which brings us to peenergy.com. The sources say they turn commodity pump chaos into industrial supply certainty. That's a bold claim.
Yeah.
How do they actually pull that off for, say, procurement managers or ops teams?
Well, PE Energy really tackles the whole supply chain piece. First off, their depth of inventory is, it's massive.
How massive?
We're talking over 5,000 SKUs. That's stock keeping units.
Unique products.
Yeah, unique items spread across 89 pages in their materials. That translates to just an incredible range of solutions that are actually available.
So less waiting time.
Much less. You're probably not waiting weeks for a factory order for some slightly unusual part. Chances are they have it stocked.
Okay.
Second, their dedicated B2B service. This means you're not just talking to a call center. You're dealing with experienced account managers. People who actually understand industrial supply chains.
They know the business.
They know the business. They can help anticipate needs, assist with technical specs, make complex orders smoother. It's proactive.
Right.
And you combine that proactive service with their wholesale buying power. And it means faster quotes, simpler ordering, and really smooth logistics. They handle nationwide delivery international too.
Thinking about those complex supply chains and how urgent things can get, what's a common problem, maybe one that people don't think about until it bites them, that PE Energy helps customers sidestep?
Oh, a classic one is unexpected parts obsolescence. Or maybe a sudden bottleneck in the supply for one specific, maybe small but critical component.
Ah, right. The one tiny seal that holds everything up.
Exactly. You might have an older pump that's still working great, you've maintained it well, but suddenly that specific valve or seal isn't made anymore. Or the original supplier says, 6-month lead time.
Disaster.
It can be.
Right.
But PE Energy, with that huge inventory and their deep network of suppliers, they often have that obsolete part sitting on a shelf. Or they can quickly find a reliable equivalent.
So they bridge that gap.
They do. They prevent weeks, maybe months of critical downtime. They essentially act as a buffer against those nasty, unforeseen supply chain surprises. That gives you real peace of mind, especially in today's volatile markets.
That's a really powerful point. It's not always the big pump unit itself, but the tiny bits that keep it running. Okay, so wrapping this together, what does all this really mean for you listening today? Maybe you're that procurement leader or the operations ace on the ground. The takeaway seems to be that industrial pumps are definitely not just a commodity to be bought on price alone.
Absolutely not.
When you choose something like AR North America, you're fundamentally choosing production consistency. You're trying to eliminate those awful middle-of-the-night breakdown calls.
Yeah, nobody wants those.
No.
Yeah.
And you're making sure that every dollar you invest actually contributes positively to your bottom line with a predictable return. It sounds like it's about being able to, buy it once, get it installed quickly,
Yeah.
and then kind of forget about it. Stop worrying about that particular headache.
And what's really insightful, I think, connecting it all up, is seeing how these pumps genuinely are engineered for your reality.
Yeah.
Whether it's handling corrosive fluids, abrasive slurries, operating in crazy temperatures, that huge catalog, the 5,000 plus CUs over 89 pages, it means there's almost certainly a tailored solution for what you need.
There's likely something that fits.
Very likely. And then, as we've discussed, PE Energy's logistics make getting it seamless, nationwide or international. Plus, their support goes way beyond just making the sale. You get technical backup, detailed maintenance guides, maybe even training sessions for your maintenance crews.
Training, too.
Yeah, and even practical things like helping set up recycling programs for old pump components. It's really a whole ecosystem built around keeping your operation running smoothly.
That is pretty impressive, isn't it? When you think about the level of engineering detail and that whole support structure behind something as, well, fundamental as a pump, something that often just sits there humming away in the background, it definitely makes you look at that kind of critical equipment a bit differently.
It does. And, this kind of brings up an interesting question, maybe something for you to think about.
Okay.
If one single component, like an industrial pump, something often overlooked, right? If that, backed up by a really strategic supply partner, can have such a profound effect on a whole operation's uptime, its profitability, even its reputation, then what other invisible elements, these seemingly background things, exist in your world, whether it's in your operations or maybe even just in your daily life? What are you currently treating like a basic commodity, when actually it might just be one of those hidden keys, the key to unlocking greater success, better efficiency, or maybe just more peace of mind in the long run?